On Thalos 7, they aged the chocolate beans 400 years. Geordi LaForge thinks Wesley's glands are erupting with hormones. And Ensign Gibson pilots the ship. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 2, Episode 10, The Dauphin, written by, or as the French say, Le Dauphin, written by Scott Rubinstein and Leonard Mlodinow, directed by our good pal Rob Bowman. This was February 18th, 1989. Very special thanks to Fazia Rizvi for sponsoring this episode. Fazia, thank you very much for sponsoring this one. You must like it a lot. How are you today, Cirroc?
I'm doing good. Doing good.
You almost had a little James Brown for a second there. It's just you leaned in a little bit on a James Brown sound.
Okay.
So,
legend.
Absolute legend. So everybody, something you may not know, those of you listening into our audio podcast, first of all, you guys, you can always check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Just look up The Seventh Rule anywhere you go, Apple, iTunes, whatever you use, Spotify. Just look up The Seventh Rule. We're there. All of our episodes are there. But did you also know that all of our episode reviews of all the new shows, The Seventh Rule 2, is also there. So if you are subscribed to The Seventh Rule, also do a search for The Seventh Rule 2. Subscribe to that one because that's got all our Picard, Discovery reviews, Lower Decks, Prodigy, Strange New Worlds, everything. If you like The Seventh Rule, definitely subscribe to The Seventh Rule 2 as well. Very important. And also, please, everybody, super important, give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, and we will read some of those ratings out, and we'll read some of those reviews if you leave us a review at the end of the episode. So leave us a review, please, and a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it.
Yeah,
we do.
It's worthy.
It definitely helps out a ton.
This episode itself, in particular, doesn't get my full 5-star rating. The Dauphin. But there were moments in there that I did think were enjoyable.
I had a feeling. One of our free-for-all people, the people that you will see in the free-for-all, one of them said this is one of their favorite Star Trek episodes ever. So that person will explain that position later on. Okay. Stay tuned for that. But I had a feeling, Cirroc, that you would not feel that way.
Yeah, I did not feel that way. There were elements of it that I did like. I like the fact that Wesley got a storyline and he got some focal point. Also got some good scenes with other characters. I like to see him and Geordi in different scenes together.
Yeah.
They have a good chemistry together to me. And it makes sense, them being working partners because of his intellect and because of, Geordi's experience. The two of them together would make a good team.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like that. You mentioned Ensign Gibson. Was that the blonde woman that was at the front next to Data at the helm?
Yeah, that was her. Ensign Gibson finally gets the big introduction that we've been waiting for. I don't know if she's ever back, though. I don't think so. I think that was...
yeah, I wasn't exactly waiting for this introduction. You said, finally, the big introduction. I'm like, I wasn't really waiting for the big introduction, but, I did notice that she was there and, at the helm next to Data. So that times, and actually had lines, if I'm not mistaken, had a few lines.
A lot of times they just have the ensign of the week or something. Yeah, like the one guy that was like, I got the mind control thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking right now. Ensign Gibson, we hardly knew ye. Just the one episode. Although she was in Sledgehammer, The Jeffersons, Dallas, The Facts of Life, Double Trouble, Days of Our Lives, 9 to 5, all kinds of Golden Palace, the Golden Palace, which you know well. Anyway, as
she
the Golden
definitely
Girls
had
spinoff.
the hair of the time period. That there was that kind of bigness of the hair.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely reminded me of that time period hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did notice that she was there, and I thought that was good to see that as
Mm-hmm.
well.
But back to Wes and Geordi, because I definitely want to talk about that as well. When we suddenly see Wes in engineering with Geordi, my first thought was, yes, this is a perfect fit. He's cool at the helm, talking with Data. That's a cute little combination there, and getting yelled at by the superiors. Fine. But if he's got this crazy intellect, he's got a brilliant mind, he needs to be helping with Geordi. He needs to be helping Geordi, and Geordi needs to be tapping into his brilliant mind. That's a resource. So that it's a very symbiotic relationship there.
Yes.
You could not find a better tutor than Geordi. Geordi is the perfect tutor for Wes, and Wes is the perfect helper for Geordi. So I thought that was a great fit, and I was very happy to see it.
I actually wondered why I hadn't seen more of it up until this point. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I felt like I don't see enough of, and Rob gave us a little bit of that in this episode with his camera work, but 10 Forward is such a great set. That bar lit Beautiful. Up, and it's just like, you have that, you should use it and kind of film it more, and just, I don't really even have a full grasp of the bigness of it and the layout of it. I kind of have slivers of it in my head. The bar's here, the tables are there, but I don't really have a very big, grand vision of it. The way I feel like I know Quarks, for example, because it's been filmed so well. I know where the staircase is at Quarks. I know, they really filmed the bar very well. 10 Forward is not getting that same coverage at
totally.
this point, and I would like to see more coverage inside of it, that space. The other room that I think could use a lot more coverage, which we got in this episode, was the reactor room where the warp core is. Right? I mean, it's such a cool room with the blue light effects, and where the scene where they had Wesley and Geordi, it seemed like a place where they should be using more often. They use the bridge a lot, but I would like to see scenes and conversations happening in these various parts of the ship, which I think should get more coverage. That's all I mean. They could still have the same scenes play out, but let it play out in some of these really grand sets that you design.
That's a really good point. It reminds me of when I used to work in locations. I worked in locations for a show on ABC back in the day, a few years ago. And you kind of get the sense that the people that are finding locations, or in this case, building locations, they're part of the storytelling. They are telling the story. When somebody finds Chateau Picard for Picard season 1, they're part of the storytelling. When somebody's building these areas and creating this lighting, they are setting the mood. They are telling you a story. They are creating, situations. And sometimes the writing and the directing and the camera work adjusts to the location. So you really affect the final product in an enormous way. And sometimes they see something when it's like an outdoor location. They're like, oh my God, this fountain's amazing. We've got to use it. Run through this fountain instead of going there, or something like that. So back to your point, which is, this kind of using this location, it really, every time they're in a new location or a new part of the ship, it sets up like a different mood. It tells a story. It makes us go, oh, I wonder what that thing does, or, oh, this is a cool thing. And, so I completely agree with you. But do you think that it's probably just a budgetary thing where it's like, this is always the bridge, this is always 10 Forward, this is always whatever. And then for this week, instead of the little indoor fake outdoor courtyard, they just built that little miniature engine room kind of thing. And then next week it's torn down to be a rock alien planet or something.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of it has to do with budget and trying to logistically plan how they're going to get all of the shots that they need for the episode. But for the stuff that is there, they can plan it out. They can write it out. A lot of that stuff is
Mhm.
just standing all the time and just not being used whenever they're not in that space. They're not going to really completely tear stuff down. They might dismantle things and tear things apart,
And then move
but
it to
they
the
won't,
side.
yeah, move it to the side and then rebuild something else in that space. But the things are there, they exist. And um, if you do, for example, have a bar like 10 Forward and it has all of these cool, let's say, photographs on the wall or little things, like I want to see the little details. I want to see the bottles of alcohol on the shelves in
Totally.
the bar in the back, right? I want to see the backlit. I want to see the lighting on the countertop. I wanted the camera to kind of glide across that lighting. I want to see the craftsmanship of the design build. Even, are there windows in that space? Deep Space Nine had these really, really nice oval windows that were accented the quarters, at Sisko's quarters or anybody's quarters. They had the window design. Um, Even on the promenade, those large windows that you could stand and look out of,
Huge. Yeah.
and just capturing the detail of that molding and of those shapes, and they built it so you can look at it, and I want to see it. And so when I get to see little stuff, like when I see the operating rooms or the ops, and there was a lot of different locations, I would say, transporter room, the 10 Forward, um,
Mhm.
the room that they're in behind you. I don't know what that they would call that, one of
That
the
was like
quarters, I
sick
guess.
bay. Well, that was when they were
Oh,
in
okay, that
sick
was
bay,
sick
I
bay.
think. At one.
Yeah.
But you know who would totally agree with you? Two groups: Star Trek, all Star Trek fans, and the art department, because you've seen it. Like they spend hours and hours
Yeah.
and hours building these sets. Hold the work, right? They're building when people are trying to shoot. They're staying there long hours, doing all these things, getting super creative, and they add all these extreme little details. Like you look behind the monster
Mhm.
alien, there's all these buttons, and the cameras rarely ever pick it up. We never get a close up. The Star Trek fans are like getting screenshots and zooming in, and so these people put in all this work. They have incredible craftsmanship. They go into
Yeah.
incredible detail, and it's just they do all that just in case the director says, "Hey, get a little close up of that," which hardly ever happens, right? But you walking around the promenade on Deep Space Nine, you saw all the details that were never picked up.
Yeah. So I want to see that. I enjoy, for example, if Jordy and Crusher are working on something, I want to see them actually open a panel in the wall. They did that a lot on DS9 with O'Brien. He
Hmm.
would actually open panels and get into the machinery of it, and you could see the actual, inside the panel. So it lets you know there's even a layer of detail beyond the surface layer. Like you can remove this panel and we've got wiring or what kind of electronic system behind that. If you want to see it, we'll build it for you. And that's how detailed these guys are. And I would take advantage of that as a director and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to have Wesley working on the reactor, and we're going to have him digging in this panel, and he's going to, and I want to see even a close up of those kinds of things. Even though we saw a little bit of it, we didn't get those close ups in those moments. But Rob does his best to kind of show us the ship, and I think that's one of the elements that he does best when he's
Mm.
directing these things. He really tries to make more use of the ship than other directors, even sometimes taking risks that I would question, or just so he can try to do that. There was a shot, for example, of Geordi in the beginning at the table, and it was from underneath the table. I don't know if you noticed it, but the camera was from under the table, and it caught Wesley in the background and kind of closed on him, and they used a two shot on it. But I was like, are they under the table?
That kind of point of view kind of takes you out of it a little bit, right?
Yeah, it slightly I takes me out of it because I'm thinking, where is the camera? And like who looks at something from this kind of an angle where they're like, but it's a risk because he wants to shoot something in a different way. Maybe he's hiding something in the set that he's trying to not catch. I wasn't sure on why he exactly picked that, but
do you think that
it was
maybe it's
unusual.
because this is an episode, forgive me, but this is an episode where not a lot happened. This wasn't a terribly exciting episode, and I don't mean that as too much of a knock. You know, there's some episodes that are about battles and some that are about relationships. There's some that are funny. There are others that are serious. There wasn't a ton that happened in this. This was more of a story. This was more of, you know, a love story or an interesting thing that happened. So do you think that maybe he's trying to get a little extra creative with the shots just to give us a little bit more?
Spice it up. Yeah. It's a spice up. Absolutely. I think that's what it is. Because the story is slow and, you know, there are not enough curveballs in this episode. There's nothing there that makes you say, "Oh, I don't know what's going on here." The only
there was only one curveball.
Only one.
When that girl's friend showed up out of nowhere, I was like, "Wait, who is this girl?" And then you piece it together. Oh, it's Graham that keeps changing.
Exactly, and you know, we can get into that whole concept in afterwards in a different discussion, but just for the simple fact of a basic story that has no twists, no turns, no real, no morality play. Because at first I was thinking, oh, is this like a Cinderella story of a poor girl who's being, you know, forced to do stuff she doesn't want to do? And I thought, oh, is that what this is? And then I said, oh no, this is not a Cinderella story because there are no other like sisters to compete with her. It's just her. So this is a different story than that. And then I thought of the arranged marriages situation, like when you're forced into an arranged marriage that you don't like or want to be in, and you're dreading that outcome, and people are telling you, no, that's your destiny, that's what you're supposed to do, or that's, you know, that's how it goes. So I thought, is this an arranged marriage type of scenario, morality type of play that they're putting on for us, where, you know, this woman is being dragged into a situation that she doesn't want for her future. But they kind of went away from that. So it wasn't that at some point, you know. I thought it was, you're being pushed into a direction that you don't want to be going in. And that's what this story was about at first, I thought. But it kind of lost that element. They gave that up at the end, so it didn't really hit that note for me.
Yeah, I had a similar journey. Then, you know, I also thought, oh, is this episode going to be about her, you know, mediating between two warring sides? But we didn't even get to that point. And then the old lady was just kind of like, all right, that's it. See you later. You're off on your own.
Job done. Yeah,
it was very anticlimactic. And then they had their Star Wars moment where the girl, Celia, is that her name, Celia? She says, I'm going to miss you. And then Anya says, I know. Like Han Solo and Princess. Like that was it. She literally said, I know. When she didn't say, I'm going to miss you too. And I was a little bummed because at the end, I wanted them to turn back into their furry monster beasts and hug it out. I want them to be like, I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too. And then they turn into their monsters and they just hug and drool on each other and do whatever they do, you know? I think that would have been so cute to see. With their fur all matted up.
Yeah. I'm going to leave that alone, but I wanted to say that your version of the ending is definitely funny. Yeah, this just, I don't know, man. I couldn't figure out what the message was. It wasn't consistent for me. You know, is it telling the story of the Anna, the mother, being the protector of this person going through this transitional period in their life, like some adolescence or whatever of this alien version of adolescence? Is that what this is about? Is this about this alien's version of adolescence and growing up and finding their own kind of young adulthood? I couldn't figure out what exact message they were trying to tell
right
with this story.
Like the pitch in the writer's room, a lot of times, like you mentioned, Cinderella, they'll say like, what about a Cinderella episode? What about a Rumpelstiltskin episode or a Leprechaun episode? What about a Three Bears episode? And then they incorporate it.
Roswell. It's Roswell.
Right.
Something really simple to just pitch.
But what did they say on this one? The pitch was, it's there's some people, they transport. Wes likes one. She's very nice to him. So, okay.
Like, I'm waiting. And then she turns into Bigfoot.
Yeah. So I wonder if maybe they did have like a pitch for it or an angle, and then certain things kind of got shaved off, where they had to cut certain scenes that explain things a little bit better. I don't know, because that happens a lot of times where they'll tell us, the writer or the director will say, we actually had to cut this scene that explained things a little bit more. So maybe there was something like that happened. But yeah, I don't know what the theme necessarily was. I guess the theme was for Wes.
What about backstory on these aliens that shapeshift and why they are necessary for this mediation? What skill set do they have that allows them to mediate this dispute between these? I couldn't tell. Was that part of their life journey, like the Jem'Hadar fighting?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is that part of what they're bred for? Is this some life mission calling that she has? There was no backstory even explaining their purpose of trying to mediate this. Like, so what skill set do you have? Like, you don't even know what you're supposed to do. From what I heard from the character, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and the old lady that cracked me up, she said, "I'm older than you can possibly imagine." And I was just like, what a weird thing to say. Like, she's saying that we can't imagine a big number. What, like 4,000? I 10 million. I can imagine these numbers. You can't imagine a number that I can't imagine. You can't. It's easy. We understand numbers, even really big ones with a lot of zeros. We get it. But yeah. So maybe what it was they just want to give Wes a love story. That's probably where it started. They wanted to give Wes a love story that could not continue because it needs to be a bottle episode. So it needs to have an end where he doesn't see her again. Okay, well, they can't kill a teenager, so maybe they'll make it, to where she's not entirely as she appears, or maybe so it may have started out with, we got to give him a love story, but within these parameters. Maybe that's how it kind of started out.
Yeah,
maybe I'm giving too much credit. I don't know.
No, I mean, for sure they wanted the love story in there. I just find so many flaws with it. It just was bothering me. For one, the absence of his mother becomes more prevalent in this episode. It becomes, to me, this is why you have a mother and a parent, because you're going through these feelings, emotions, you're having these kinds of things. He's obviously close with his mom. They've been, through the trenches together, which got him there. This is one of those moments when you reach out to your mom and have a phone call and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm feeling this kind of way and this and that." And I would have liked to see that. It felt like he was on his own, and I really felt a little bit sad for him that he didn't have a family or somebody who really has his best interest at heart kind of giving him like Jordy's like, I don't have time for that, man. Get out of here, bro. Like,
you got raging hormones. Go off.
Get your hormones out of here. And then Guinan's like, get out of here, kid. It's about me now. And it's like, right. And so that's what people do who are not your parents. Your parents are going to drop everything and be like, all right, what's bothering my kid? And I mean, most good parents are going to do that.
Like Benjamin Sisko did for Jake. When Jake was in love with a Dabo girl, and actually, we'll cover this on the other side of the break. We got to go on the other side. But I want to ask you on the other side, how you felt about Wesley Crusher's, first love interest being a nice, sweet, cute young lady, and you got stuck with a 40-year-old woman in bed with you. Jake, if you were just like, hey man, why did I get stuck with like a mind sucker? I forgot what the episode is called. But we'll hit that on the other side. Also, I submit this was actually 3 love stories in one. There were 3 love stories in this episode, each one more beautiful than the last. But we'll hit that on the other side, everybody. You're going to want to stick around for this one. We're going to learn a lot. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule.